Good evening and a very warm welcome to all of our viewers in Guyana and around the world. Globespan 24/7 is very pleased to bring you these Monday night programs, and we hope that you will enjoy it. Call your friends and family, let them know that we're on the air so they can listen to our program tonight. Thanks to Nohar Singh of Travelspan for making this platform available, and of course to Devin Bissu, our technical specialist. Over the past year or so, we have had a lot of programs every Monday night, and there are complaints that we are only promoting PEP ministers on this platform. We reached out to other important players in our country, so tonight it is really my great honor and privilege to welcome a very dynamic woman from Guyana. She is no stranger to us. She is the former Minister of Public Health in the coalition government and the chairperson of the People's National Congress. So please join me in welcoming the Honorable Volda Lawrence on the program tonight. Ms. Lawrence, welcome to our program tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sugrim, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Rose, my co-host, I want to welcome you also. Welcome, Dr. Rose.
Thank you and welcome, Ms. Lawrence. It's a pleasure being in the program with us. Thank you very much for your cooperation on this one. Thanks.
You're most welcome.
Ms. Lawrence, if I can start, if you don't mind, how has been the transition for you being a minister of the government and now becoming a regular citizen of Guyana?
It has not been hard for me because I can assure you, Mr. Sugrim, I have been exceptionally busy. There is so much that has been going on in our country, in the communities. And as you know, I'm always a grassroots person. And so while I was in government, I still had several programs running. And given the present situation that we're in with the pandemic and all of the issues that persons are facing with in Guyana, I found myself immediately back on the trail, so to speak, putting together several projects and programs and working with several groups of persons to ensure that we can be able to contribute to the communities and the people in Guyana. So it hasn't been really hard. I like the part when I can wake up when I like.
and I was telling you, you look so good now. Not that you didn't look better then, but you look so fresh and refreshing that a lot of burden maybe came off your shoulder being a private citizen again. Well, Ms. Lawrence, I want to say this to you, that Guyanese are very proud of you when you went to West Berbice after the killing of the murder of the Henry boys. Soon after, the citizens, as we know, along the West Berbice corridor, they blocked the roads and there were reports of racial attacks. You went there and appealed to the people to refrain from racial attack on their fellow citizens. So, Ms. Lawrence, your action was so magnanimous, and I would like to salute you for taking that stand. Is there anything you want to tell our audience about what really transpired in West Berbice in your view?
Thank you again for that question, and thank you for your kind words in describing my actions. But I want to say that what I have done, I don't see it as magnanimous. I think it is the call and the duty of every Guyanese to ensure that we each can contribute towards us living as a people in peace and harmony, with lots of love for each other. You know, as a representative of the country, wherever I went, whether I was just a parliamentarian or when I was a minister, I was very proud to describe the collage of representation in terms of ethnicity in Guyana. And on many occasions, persons would ask you, so you have a lot of civil war there, huh? And I would let them know, no, not at all. You know, we live together in peace and harmony. And I would like to build on that. And I would like to see so many other Guyanese build on that. I was not around in the 60s. I was born in 1963. I have read and I have heard a lot of stories. And as I sit here this evening, I pray that Guyana will never, ever write such stories as part of our history again. It is time for us to move on as a people.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Dr. Rose?
Minister Lawrence, I just want to go back on what my colleague just said about going up Berbice on that day. You know that, and it's been reported in the media, that two leaders of the party went up there and actually tried to incite more violence and call it a racial murder without knowing the circumstances that led to these boys' death. You went up there and you actually present yourself as a healer to the nation. Now, what caused you to do that? One, and two, did you hear anything from your party members? Because it was on Facebook that you were selling out to the PEP and all sort of stuff. Have you heard anything negative about your comments or the way you presented yourself up West Coast Berbice country?
Yes, I have. I was aware that several of my colleagues were going to Berbice to meet with the family. And it has been alleged that they have said certain things. They have denied that to incite the crowd and so on. But I know what I saw. That was not my first day in West Coast Berbice. As a matter of fact, that was my second day in West Coast Berbice. I was there the day before with a friend who had some skirmishes and had some things taken away from him. And so I went with him because I said to him, I said, no, this can't be Guyanese doing this to Guyanese. And myself and him and Mr. Bond and several others, we went up, we met with people, we talked to villagers. And that is what I did. I came out and I spoke at every barricade. I stopped, I spoke to people. And, you know, I found that it was not the villages involved in the skirmishes which they had, but there were pockets of people along the way who, to my mind, was one, misinformed, two, was not given proper guidance, and three, some of them were just mischievous and took the opportunity to express themselves in that way. And every stop I made, I spoke to persons and I said, we don't want to go down this line as a nation. All of us will be hurt. And so the second day, I went back because persons called me, and so that evening called Mr. Bond. I started to get a lot of texts and so on. And we went back up on that second day. When I went back on the second day, it was worse. Because if there were 8 places where there were blockages, by the time the next day I went back, there were about 16 or 18. And you saw young people involved. And if you ask them what was the objective, what they expected to get out of what they were doing, they couldn't tell you. And so I recognized that there was a lack of leadership in the communities, a lack of leadership among these young people who felt that what they were doing, that it would bring some satisfaction and bring some information and some good to the Henry family and to the residents of West Coast Berbice. And that really, really upset me because I felt that many persons, local leaders as well, have shirked their responsibilities to get out there and to talk to these young people, to talk to those persons who were out there, some of them imbibing and so on. So what was the objective? And I think for too long we have not spoken about the race issue which we have in Guyana. And I think it comes back to all of us as leaders, all of us, everyone must be blamed for it. Because over the many, many years, we continue to throw gasoline on the fire instead of pouring water. And we don't want to talk about it. We want to accuse each other, but we don't want to have a national conversation and to get this thing out there. And I think that it will be very detrimental to all of us and to the future of Guyana to have our young people and our children grow up with something that was done 50 years ago or 60 years ago. Something that is being told to them by somebody who's pointing out their views and how they saw it or how they interpret it. I think it's a big mistake for us as a young country.
Okay. Now, in other words, what you went there to promote unity, which is what Guyana needs more than anything else. Now, can you take that message across the country to promote unity? I know it will entail some costs and everything else, but I'm sure there are people willing to put money up to help you and put a team together to take that message across the country to preach unity between the two major races. Would you consider that role?
Certainly, Doc. I certainly would pitch in whichever way I can. And I don't have to wait for a program to do that. I do, my very life speaks to one people, one nation, one destiny. What does that mean? Is it just something that we just say? Is it something that we feel inside of us? Is it something that we are working towards? Then, you know, the responsibility is that of each and every Guyanese, not just a leader, but the pandits and the priests and the pastors and the apostles and the mages and the teachers and everybody, the doctors, the nurses, every Guyanese, irrespective of where you are, we have to be the voice that will bring about that healing to our countrymen. So I have absolutely no issue with regards to speaking to my countrymen and women and boys and girls about why we should see each other as a human being first, and secondly, we must see each other as a brother and a sister. We're all the same. We're Guyanese, irrespective of where we go.
Okay. Now, as you know, and as reported in the media, you're the second most senior leader of the PNC as a chairperson for the party. After the leader, it's you. But the nation was shocked when you were not selected to be a member of parliament. And politicians as well from both sides of the aisle, they were shocked to know that you were not going back to be a member of parliament. Now, Mr. Granger said he told you this before he made the announcement. Can you shed some light on that, if that's true or not? Were you told
Dr.
before?
Ross, thank you for your question. Let me just say this very clearly, that I was informed, yes, a few minutes before it was said to everyone. So the leader is correct that he did mention that in my presence, and so I was aware. And so we're talking not about me knowing long before, but I did know before it was shared with the other executives of the party, whether it was just a few minutes or a half an hour before or what. But it still came as a shock to me, I would say that.
What was the reason given to you for not going back to parliament? Because you were very effective in parliament over the years when we looked at you. So what were the reasons given that you are not going to go back to parliament?
Well, there are some different views in terms of how we should start to nurture the another tier of leaders. And one was that all of those persons who would have served more than 2 terms, that we should step aside and allow younger persons to take the reins and for us to nurture them in the parliamentary process.
Yeah, but
Charles.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. But Ms. Lawrence, Dr. Rose mentioned, as you know, it is the leader of the party, and then there's chairman of the party, where you're the chairperson. In any organization, one would have thought that if the leader would have stepped aside, being former President Granger, then the chairperson would have been the new leader in Parliament. But that's something that maybe within the PNC you will have to discuss. But I want to get into some politics as well, Ms. Lawrence, if you don't mind. According to the media report on TV coverage, both President Granger and Prime Minister Nagamutu assured the Guyanese people that the Constitution would be followed after the no confidence motion was carried in the House. As a senior member of the coalition and chairman of the PNC, why did the coalition went against the assurance given by the President and the Prime Minister?
Well, Mr. Sugrim, I beg to disagree that they went back on their word. They, like I and others, were so guided by the legal persons, and based on those guidance, the necessary decisions as they rolled out was taken. Not for one moment would I sit here and say that the decisions taken to go to the courts, etc., was one to deviate from the statements made by either the then president or the prime minister. I remember even in the parliament that the speaker in his pronouncement on the matter advised that the parties seek the audience of the courts. So I don't think that they would have gone back on their word. I think based on those advice that they acted.
But Ms. Lawrence, we know the final determination, the CCJ ruled that it was carried as is. And it bothers many of us that the PNC having such brilliant people in their fold, yet they went down that road that somehow believed that 33 was not the majority of those sitting in Parliament. And we had to go to the CCJ spending millions and millions of dollars in legal fees for them to tell us that, yes, 33 is the majority of 65. So my question to you is, when that discussion started within the cabinet, I'm sure cabinet would have started it, wasn't there someone there would have said, listen, guys, let's calm down. This is what the law is. This is what Matt has taught us over the years. Why do we have to go that route? And I agree with you. When you went to Parliament, the Speaker did give you that leeway to go for interpretation, but that was after the Attorney General asked him to rescind his decision that it was not passed.
Well, Mr. Sugrim, I am not a lawyer, and I will not pretend here that I have any legal leaning. And so our decisions was based primarily on the advice that was given to us. I can remember not only hearing, but also reading in the press that, you know, there is some different calculation that is used by lawyers in these matters where figures are a part of the debate. And so, of course, you will lean to the learned persons of the legal profession for advice. And so that is exactly what was done.
And I agree with you. You listen to your legal people, but I think sometimes the legal people do get it wrong. And in this case, they did get it wrong because what they were looking at, the formula they looked at was half plus one is if there's an even number. So if we are 50 of us, 25 cannot be the majority. It must be 25 plus one. But if we are 51, then we know 26 is the majority. So there should be no babble there, but that's something that, it's history now.
Yes, but let me say that the legal profession does not look at things as myself and you would look at things in that exact form of mathematics. They also look at precedents. And so there were also indicating that there were other cases, as they did put forward to the CCJ, where pronouncements and decisions were made. And so I will, as I said before, I will not sit here and try to pretend that I am a student of the law and how it is interpreted and so on. I certainly will, but I can tell you that over those many court appearances, I have learned a lot because it made me seek knowledge. It made me read and ask questions. And I can say that I am more knowledgeable about several aspects of the law and our Constitution based on that.
Yeah, and the point is taken, except Ms. Lawrence, is that I think a lot of us, including me, I think what the PNC or the coalition did, it belittles the intelligence, in my view, of people like you and all the others within the party who are, in my view, you're very brilliant people. And to go down that route, that was, in many persons' view, I think even some of your supporters would have thought that that was not the right route to go. Some believe that if the former president had called the election 90 days after the no confidence vote, the coalition might have won the election because the sympathy of the people might be there. Oh, you're robbed of your 2 or 3 year more, so we'll give you another term. But that's only speculative thinking. We don't know what would have happened. It's history now.
That's so true. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
It is speculation, right?
Right. What came out of this is that now Dr. Rose and I can come to Guyana and say we want to be a minister because we are dual citizen. Now, would you support, I know you're not in parliament now, but would your party support a bill to allow the Constitution to be amended so that dual citizenship can be ministers of government or whatever, member of parliament, for instance, in the new dispensation?
Look, Mr. Sugrim, thank you for bringing up this particular topic. It's very near and dear to me. I have a personal view, and I know that my party and also parties in the coalition have spoken to the fact that we need to have constitutional reform. And I know that having that constitutional reform will allow us to address this particular issue, because this is not the first time that this issue came up. It came up during the last constitution reform that we had persons going around. If you could remember when former President Janet Jagan ran, it was also a topical issue and so on, giving her not being a born Guyanese, but one who married into the Guyanese family. And so this is not a new topic, but once again, here it is. I think we allow ourselves as leaders to deal with the frivolous matters, so to speak, or the low-hanging fruits all the time. And matters such as constitutional reform, matters such as dual citizen, etc., we don't give it the right place that it ought to be. And why I'm saying that, and this is my personal view, all of us will speak to Guyana not having the necessary skills that we need in country to develop our country. But if we look in the diaspora, we will find persons with varying skills, varying degrees. Dr. Rose is a professor, you know, that would want to come back to Guyana. They want to build their country. But we are not addressing that to fill the gap which we have presently. I believe that that would be a priority for any government to address. We did not address it. We felt that it was something we would have addressed in our second term when we have the constitution reform going, but that did not materialize. And it does not mean that we have changed the way in which we view this particular topic. And so I hope that very soon we will see the move by the government and the parliament to ensure that we have this committee up and running so that we can be able, because even as we talk about development, how can you move forward with an archaic system? How can you move forward with some of the things which bars Guyanese from participating in the development of their country in the fullest way? And so this is something, this is a very important aspect that every Guyanese now is aware of. You know, before the motion, many Guyanese didn't know about the dual citizenship, but now everyone, I would say, knows about it. And so since we know about it, let us do something about it. I thought the University of Guyana would have picked it up and, you know, had some debates going and let us hear the young minds and so on it. I must tell you, I do look forward with great anticipation for us to have this topic right at the top of our agenda so that as a nation we can be able to address it just as other countries in the Caribbean has done, so that Guyanese abroad who have made that choice can also serve their country.
Thank you, Minister. When we come back, we want to continue. I'm glad you mentioned that second term, and I want you to address that a little. What went wrong that you did not win the second term? What you have done differently now had you known what was wrong to correct it so that you could have won a second term? So when we come back, I would like you to address that question. We'll be back shortly.
All From One Supplier is pleased to announce its online shipping for West Indian and American groceries. Order online at allfromonesupplier.com and with free shipping and deliveries to any part of the United States. Save time and energy to shop for all of your West Indian groceries from the safety of your home or office. We carry West Indian products like curry powders, meats and fish, dashing bush, pepper sauce, sodas, and your favorite snacks. All From One Supplier has it all. All From One Supplier fulfills and ships your order directly to you. So visit All From One Supplier today to start shopping, or call All From One Supplier at 718-551-3292 to handle all of your West Indian grocery needs. That's All From One Supplier, 718-551-3292. Free shipping, free deliveries, or curbside pickup from allfromonesupplier.com. Travelspan has low fares on American Airlines, Eastern Airlines, Caribbean Airlines, and JetBlue. Let Travelspan shop and compare prices for all 4 airlines. Guyanese now have choices, so book your preferred airline through Travelspan. Call Travelspan at 718-845-0437 for the lowest deals between New York, Miami, and Guyana. That's Travelspan at 718-845-0437. From Miami to Guyana, rates are as low as $186 one-way and $417 round-trip. Deals from New York to Guyana are as low as $191 one-way and $475 round-trip. And Travelspan is also offering shop and ship. So if you cannot travel, you shop and Travelspan will ship all your items for you. So call Travelspan today in New York at 718-845-0437. In Georgetown, 227-1701. In Berbice, 337-4287. And in the West Coast Demerara, 269-0140. Travelspan has several offices to serve all your needs. So call Travelspan today.
Welcome back to Globespan. We are broadcasting live from New York. We have with us here former Minister of Health and the PNC Chairwoman, Ms. Volda Lawrence. Welcome, Ms. Lawrence, again. Minister Lawrence, or Ms. Lawrence, I should say, the PP was in office for 23 years. APNU came into office for 5 years. No party or no human being is perfect. So what I want you to tell the nation tonight, or the people tonight listening, what are some of the good things that your party did, and what are some of the bad things you think your party did or should have done to improve themselves? What are some of the good things your party did over those 5 years?
Well, that would be the coalition.
Right, the coalition, right.
And I think there are a list of things that we have been able to address in the last 5 years of our term. I would say that the latter year, we were stymied because of not having a budget, etc. But I think that we started off on a good footing, that we were quite aware of many of the issues which the people wanted to be addressed. And I think one of the biggest thing for us was to ensure that we spoke very loudly about having this one Guyanese nation, about bringing together all of the people, the culture, bringing back the nationalism, and so on. I think that was very commendable, because I think we had, and we continue, we haven't reached there, but we've lost that sense of pride in Guyana. And I think we were able to do that, to have people fly the flag again, wear the flag, put it on their homes, and be proud to be Guyanese again. I think we have been able to do much in the foreign sector, much in the social sector, in infrastructure. We have been able to do tremendous lot of things there. Education, and I don't want to detail them this evening. I can, but it's going to take a very long time. But I think also is that there was a plan for the young people of the country that never really got to the point where it could have really, you could have really seen the effect of it, because it was in its embryonic stages. I think the whole plan to reform the public sector was also one of our hallmarks, ensuring that we could have taken services to the people in Guyana, the connectivity, having people all across Guyana being able to tune in and be a part of what was happening across Guyana. I think all of those things were good for us. I think on the downside of it, however, the one thing that stands out is that we were not able to sell and to share all of the things that we were doing. I think our communication strategy was exceptionally weak, and so that did not go out there as it ought to have gone out to redound to the people. I also believe that, looking back, that we ought to have made some more changes within the various structures. And when I say changes, I am talking about being able to bring in more people with expertise. I think we lacked that, and we depended on what was there and open doors for them and give them opportunity. But it definitely was not enough for us to be able to build on and for them to take the programs and the vision which we had and run with it. I believe that there were some things which we did not explain properly to the public, like we allowed the opposition to run ahead with many of our issues, taking them from a positive to a negative. And I want to highlight a few. I think the intent of utilizing Durban Park, which is not just a coalition view, this was a planned program that was there since the present government was in office. I remember that there was a survey that went out to the people around there, the area, seeking their advice on what they should do with that plot of land. And there were some monies invested in it. I think that went wrong. And I think we did not thoroughly investigate it and dealt with it in the manner that we should have. I also believe that there were several issues in terms of persons being able to meet with ministers. All over you went, you heard persons speak of that. And I honestly believe, because I saw it, where ministers got so bogged down in their ministry that they forgot that they were politicians and had to be out there and be on the ground, listen to the people, hear from them, and try to solve their issues. I think we were overwhelmed because there were so many issues which the people had. They felt that once there was a change in government, their expectations would have been met. And I think we did not cater for that in any fundamental way as we ought to have. And I think that came back to haunt us. I'm quite certain that there were other issues which we did not deal with in the manner in which we should have dealt with. But I want to leave that as it is right now.
Okay. Ms. Lawrence, I want to ask you a question, which many people think was a major problem for this government, for the last government, your government. When the boxing complex was closed at Linden, almost 6,000 workers were laid off. That hemorrhaged the country. Now, and that was like 40 years ago, I think. But in 2017, your government closed 4 sugar estates without finding an alternative, laid off almost 8,000 workers. Don't you think that was a poor strategy?
Yes, I think it was badly rolled out. I know that there were plans. I have been at cabinet. There were presentations of some of the programs that were supposed to be put in place to help cushion the effect of the loss of the jobs by these persons, of the programs for the children who might be in university or sitting exams, etc. There was a well-documented plan in terms of how to address the social downside of the closure of those estates. But for whatever reason, which I can't say to you, those were not rolled out. And I think that came back to haunt us tremendously.
One other thing I want to mention to you, and this has been broadly spoken in Guyana, reported in the media constantly. is that President Granger brought in a ton of his military personnel into the government, leaving out the youths. And the talk and the tongue was, these people already had a pension, they had a good job, they had a pension, not that they don't have skills, but they were all over in the government. Don't you think that was a poor strategy to militarize the government, so to speak? Because when you do that, you're affecting the civilian population. What have you got to say about that?
Well, I have a different view. My view is very narrow on this particular one. And that is because I haven't looked at it holistically. But let me say this, that I assumed that all of the persons who would have had positions, as you rightly said, came with some skill. And being a government in office for the first time for so long, the government had programs that they wanted to get off the ground immediately. But I know that the view was that we were supposed to bring on young people, and that is why the president did have that two-tier system. You had a minister and a minister within. And so it was supposed to be a molding operation, so if I may use that term, so that when the senior ministers go off, you have the younger people taking over. And that, as far as I can recall, was supposed to redound to all of these agencies, so that younger people can come on, they can learn, they can be able to get the experience, get their feet in, and then they move on to take over.
Charles.
Ms. Lawrence, follow up from Dr. Rose's question there. And I'm speaking for what I heard from fellow Guyanese as well. They said for you to get a job with a coalition, one, you had to be a former army person. Secondly, you had to be old. And third, you had to be black. Now, with the composition of Guyana's ethnic group, there are also reports of 16 of the 17 permanent secretaries, I was told, were of African origin. Is that something that, in retrospect, was something that should have been corrected, knowing that the ethnic composition of the country, people want to see at least their people part of the administration, and they're not seeing that?
I do not wish to speak to that on behalf of the coalition government, because as I just outlined, what should have been the platform on which the young person should have been able to come into the system and move forward. In terms of the permanent secretaries, I don't believe that if you check the permanent secretaries, that you would find perhaps not even more than 10% of them would have been persons who would have come from other service industries into the public service, because I know the president was very, very serious about developing the public service. And so persons who would have been named permanent secretaries, they were either permanent secretaries before or they were deputy permanent secretaries. And so it was not a bringing in of persons, but rather promotion of persons within the public service. But I want to say this, I disagree with this thing, that you have to have an office with 20 people and 10 must be Indians and 10 must be Afro-Guyanese. If we continue along that line, all we will be doing is promoting racism. I think it has come, we have to understand that if we want to build the institutions of this country and we want to move this country forward, we have to instill in our children that education is important. And so those persons who would take up that challenge and are qualified and equipped to do the job, they must be given the leeway to do it, irrespective of race. Because then what are you going to say to the indigenous people who have a disadvantage? They don't have all of the learning amendments that we have on the coast. What are you going to say to them? Are we going to put those persons who, for one reason or the other, could not write their CXCs or do not have maths or do not have English, and so are we going to put them also in positions? I think, look, we got to change this view. We got to change this view. We have to flatten the landscape. We have to ensure that we educate our nation, that we educate our young people, that from the nursery coming right up, our children must know that education is important. And our parents must know that too, so that their child is given the same opportunity, irrespective of where they are. They must be given the same learning opportunities. And whenever these jobs avail themselves, then we must use the institutions to employ these persons, not politicians employing persons. We must use the institutions. Each minister is given a list of persons whom they can employ within their secretariat. Any other person should come from within the public service, whether it's in the same ministry or whether it's from another ministry, or whether it's persons who are coming into the public service for the very first time. And again, I must reiterate that we must use the institutions. No sense we talking about America and Canada and here and there. Those places, they have institutions, they respect them, and we must do the same.
And Ms. Lawrence, I totally agree with you in terms of people should be given the opportunity based on their ability to get things done. But I recall, I'm sure you recall that in the previous PP administration, when Dr. Luncheon said that no Africans are qualified to be ambassadors, that was a dumbest statement, we would have heard. We got to be mindful of the fact that Guyana is made of predominantly Indian and African. Of course, the Amerindian community is also getting big and the mixed race. So when we are giving appointments, we must also bear in mind that in every ethnic group, that there are qualified people. And I'm saying this also, Ms. Lawrence, because even now, I keep complaining, Dr. Rose, that this PP, current administration, they seem to be employing a lot of Indians in position of authority. I see most of the boards of Indian chairmen. I said that is wrong, because we need to ensure that every Guyanese, whether you're Indian origin, you're African origin, you're Amerindian, you're mixed race, you must have an opportunity to serve your country once you're qualified to do it. And I'm saying this really honestly, because both the PNC and the PPP are two major forces in Guyana. We cannot deny that. You are the two parties that will make Guyana or break Guyana. So I'm saying that in the coalition, I supported the coalition when they went in 2015. We campaigned for them. But when they start implement the policy of leaving out large areas of the Indian community into the government, it really disappointed me. Because what I'm seeing, and I told the AFC at that time, I said, please, I'm from Lagrange, and the little boys in the schools are going and take away the food from the Indian boys and girls. And I said, it's we time now. I said, you got to go and speak against that. This is not his time or our time. This is Guyana's time. And I would have thought that I had a hope that the coalition would have done a magnanimous job, but they've really failed us miserable, Ms. Lawrence, and that's why you're in opposition today. What do you have to say about that? I'm sorry I'm getting like that, but
no, but I think we agree on one thing, and that is that persons who are qualified should have the job. I think we also agree that we must ensure that the playing field is leveled so that a child, irrespective of where they are, must have the same opportunities. You know, we should not go from one term to next term to next term after 20 years, and we are still talking about C grade schools and D grade schools and that type of thing in various communities. We should work to ensure that we bring all those schools on par and give those children in those communities the opportunity so that their lives can be better through them having a better education system, through they having a better school, so they're having the best teachers. We mustn't take the best teachers and send them to the A grade school and the B grade school. If the children in the D grade school needs working on more, we need to send the best teachers there so that they can be able to help those children to be able to come on par with the others. And those children who are not academically inclined, we must go back to the system that there was several years ago, where children had the opportunity to learn a skill while being in school. And they came out and they wanted to be tailors, and they wanted to be carpenters, and they wanted to be all of the skilled persons that we had over the many years. But now we don't have that. And so if you don't have 21 CXCs, of course you're the dunce. Of course, what are you going to do in life? Drink rum, smoke dope. That's what we're saying, because we're beating down on their psyches, and we don't seem to understand that. We have to ensure that we come to that place where we not just talk the talk, but we walk the walk. Mrs. Sugrim, I am so overwhelmed, I tell you, because I go all over, I walk all over, I talk to people. And so there is real hurt out there. There are real barriers out there. You know, it's nice to write a paper and stand up and talk about it and so on. But when you get on the ground and you speak to the mothers and you speak to the grandparents who are now mothers again, minding their grandchildren, but can only do so much and no more, you know? And so I trust that we will be able to address our education system in a fundamental way that will be able to give our boys and girls the opportunity, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of class, irrespective of geography. Give them that equal opportunity so that they can be able to develop themselves and make good choices.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. And we will be having the Minister of Education on the program sometime later in the month. And I think this pandemic has actually given us that opportunity. So the best teachers can teach our students online, so all the students can log into the, to those classes, and hopefully they will be able to think. But before I ask Dr. Rose to come on,
Dr. Sugrim, I am exceptionally worried. If you ask me what would keep me up at night, I am worried. I am worried to my bones about the future of our children, because it is not true that all of our children are online, that they're doing classes. It is not true. There is much to be done in the villages and in the communities, even with the parents, to let them know how important it is that their child or their children participate in whatever educational programs there are out there, whether it's by the ministry or by the schools or by foundations or organizations, etc. We have a lot of work to do, and I am extremely worried.
Thank you, and I share your view there. I agree with you that a lot of our students, they're not getting the education right now because of the pandemic. Minister, before we go to break, I have to ask you this question. According to the media report, at a meeting in Congress Place, you purportedly told the PNC that you will give jobs only to the PNC members. Is that an accurate reflection of what you actually said there at that meeting?
It is not. It is not. And thank you for asking that question. Look, as you rightly said, that we have many downsides, both the coalition and the PPP. During the 23 years of office by the PPP, many hundreds of our supporters could not get a job, And many people that you see selling on the pavement and so on, they're not there because they want to be there. Ask them their qualifications. Some of them have university degrees, but they're out there because that's the only way they could have eked out a living for their families. And when I spoke to persons getting jobs, it was because there were several of those persons who were at that forum and who were crying out to me as a party leader as to what is it we're going to do to help them. And so my response to them of the party being a part of the government would seek to ensure that they get jobs did not mean that we are going to say, okay, you as a party card bearer member, come, you can get this job. No, not at all. That was not what it meant. It meant that it was our responsibility as a party now in government to ensure that we change what transpired before we got into government. And it went out there and, people, they didn't take the context in which I answered. They just put out basically a piece of what I said out there. And, as usual, in Guyana, everybody is God, so they judge you, and that's it. But I have no fear of what I have said. I think my actions speak louder than words, and I can be put to the test any day.
Who you think would have leaked the video out?
Pardon me?
Who you think would have leaked that video out from Congress Place?
Whoever it is. It doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't.
Minister, when we come back, there's so much more to discuss, and you've been very gracious to us. You've answered our questions really honestly and fairly. But we'll have to take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Thank you.
Hi, it's Richard David. I'm your district leader here in Richmond Hill and in South Ozone Park, where we have the highest COVID rate in New York City. It's between 15 and 20%. This is the time to limit gatherings with your family, to stop going to house parties so that we can get this positive rate and the number of people infected back down. The hospital is full. The funeral home is reporting more people there than before. Work with us to save lives in this new year.
Logistics International, based in Trinidad with representatives in Guyana, is pleased to announce its shipping services from Trinidad to Guyana. Logistics provides shipping services and has experienced personnel to handle all of your shipping needs from Trinidad to Guyana. Buy in Trinidad and let Logistics handle all of your shipping to Guyana, from small boxes to container sizes. Call Logistics in Trinidad at 1-868-336-8218 to handle all of your shipping needs, and they handle all sizes. Logistics International has been shipping for over 22 years to many Caribbean countries with reliability and dependability. Call 1-868-336-8218 in Trinidad. That's 1-868-336-8218. Or email at liclcargo@gmail.com. Globespan 24/7 continues its efforts to serve the communities. The platform provides for all sides to air their views and discuss solutions. Viewers in Guyana and across the world are participating in these discussions. Globespan's platform offers Guyanese an opportunity to express their concerns and discuss solutions in the political realm, thereby addressing the polarized situation. Discussions also include social ills, such as alcoholism, domestic violence, and suicides that have been plaguing the people. The Globespan 24/7 platform connects the diaspora and the world with Guyana. So become a supporter of Globespan 24/7 today by clicking the badge icon on the lower right side of your screen. For only $10 a month, you will be a supporter of Globespan 24/7 initiative and have a badge displayed on your Facebook profile. Help us to continue to serve the communities.
Welcome back to our audience. We want to thank you so much for staying with us. We are so honored this evening, as said, to have the former Minister of Public Health, the Honorable Volda Lawrence, and of course my co-host, Dr. Rose. Ms. Lawrence, being a former Minister of Health, we have read recently the general report of the ministry destroying almost $1 billion in expired drugs. This has happened in both administrations, the PP administration and in the coalition. As a former Minister of Health, what are some of your recommendations that you would present to the ministry to prevent this from recurring again?
All right, but first let me respond to that about the ministry destroying $1 billion in
expired drugs.
Expired drugs. And I want to say categorically that that is untrue. I want to say that is untrue. And we keep playing these little games, you know, we think that we are going to hurt a person, but we don't understand that we hurt our institution, we hurt the people who work very hard in these institutions, and we hurt ourselves as a country, because these things are documented. These things are documented. I have had the opportunity to be at the level at PAHO and WHO. They come back to haunt you. So the first thing I want to say, let us be very careful. The Auditor General report is out, and let us see if the Auditor General report says that, because that is not true. What has happened is that I was surprised when I got there that there were drugs in the bond that was written in the Auditor General report since 2013 and 2014. And when you looked at what he would have spoken about, it go back to still 2009, coming all the way. So these things just keep adding up and adding up as you go. But let me say this, unless we can be able to put a system in place which links our bond, links our pharmacy, links our laboratories and our physicians together, we will always have this problem. That's one. Two, unless we send people abroad to study how to deal with warehousing and also how to deal with quantification, we will always have this problem. Unless we change the present regulations, store regulations, which is very archaic since 1960 something, unless we change these things and make amendments and modernize them, we will have a problem. Because if I am sitting in Matthews Ridge and I have 6 boxes of suspension, and I don't have need for these suspension, they sit there until the Auditor General sends a staff to write them off, and then they're dumped. So we have an issue, one, because of our geography, 2, because we are not connected, and 3, because we do not have the skilled people who will give the guidance in terms of our purchases, in terms of our utilization, and in terms of distribution. We have, what we do have, the system we have, is one which sends out the drugs, but we don't have one that brings it back in. If New Amsterdam Hospital is not using X and they have a high stock of it, New Amsterdam Hospital, it's not easy for them just to tell Region 5, oh, you need it, or you could come and have it, or we'll send it to you. The documentation and so is so tedious, and everything is being done by hand, that, you know what, people just don't do it. You go to clinics, you go to hospitals, They tell you that they don't have X and Y. The doctors will tell you, the nurses will tell you. And then you do due diligence. You take a walk into the stock room, into the stores, and then you will see that if perchance they don't have X, that they have XY that they can use, but nobody sends back that information to the doctor to say, you have sent this patient, you're asking for X, we have XY, could you please re-prescribe? We don't have that. And sometimes by the time the patient reach back to the clinic, the doctor gone, you know? So we have a system that is outdated. We have a system that will not give us the opportunity to properly monitor and recall back drugs that are in the various locations, so that we don't go and buy the second quarter or the third quarter, that we can put a hold on that purchase and ensure that we recall all that we have out there and redistribute them back again. So there's a lot of work to do in the public health sector. Quite a lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Minister. I think we're having Minister Anthony next week. We'll ask him that question as well, what he has in mind. Dr. Rose?
Yes, Miss Lawrence. Now, there's a young lady by the name of Tashina. She sang a song a few years ago, Mama, I Don't Want to Be Born. She said that if you have a gum boil and you go to the Georgetown hospital, you go to the public hospital, you're going 6 feet down into the soil from a gum boil. Now, I have two beefs with the hospital, with governments, past and present. Number one, you're hiring Cuban doctors. And any person who knows health science will tell you, if a doctor can't speak your language, he should not be your doctor. He should not be translated to another person, but the person translate to you. Your doctor's supposed to speak your language. That's one of the beefs I have. The second beef is this. Governments past and present are telling the population that the Georgetown hospital is well equipped, it's good. You know, some hospital is good, all is good. But when they get sick, they leave the country and come to the States or Canada to get medical treatment. They go to Cuba, they go to Trinidad. Why are you telling the population that the hospitals are good, but you not going to the hospital when you get sick? Can you answer those questions for me, Minister?
All right, so first I want to say to that young lady that there has been significant improvement in the at the Georgetown Hospital and at our hospitals across the country. And we have had several testimonies to that. The thing is, again, we need to understand that in this country, we have a small cadre of specialist doctors. And so when they go to the private hospitals, Dr. Rose, is the same doctors they're seeing. And many of them end up right back at Georgetown Hospital to be treated by the same doctors. And so I believe, and that's why I said, you know, as leaders, we have to be very careful with what we're putting out there. I believe that that stigma, which Georgetown Hospital and several other hospitals carried for a long time, still remain with many persons until they get there. I would be the first to say there is much, much more to be done in the health sector. Much more to be done in the health sector. And I trust that we will be able to see that trauma hospital being built so we can be able to take care of our people the way that we ought to take care of them, and also to allow our specialists and the other doctors and nurses and all the other services to be able to operate in a atmosphere, not only the aesthetics, but also to be able to have the necessary equipment, etc., at their disposal so that they can be able to give service to our people. I want to pick you up, Dr. Rose, on the second part of your question, which you asked about us promoting these hospitals. But when something happens to us, we go to a foreign land to seek their thing. I want to say two things. I remember before I became minister, I was just a parliamentarian, and I went to the hospital and I had an ECG done. And the Sunday in church, my elder said, okay, so before we go, we're going to ask the elders to come to the front, and we're going to ask Sister Volda to come to the front, and we're going to pray for her. We're going to pray on this heart issue, you know, which she has. And I can tell you, I was shocked out of my skin because I did not share that with anyone. And there are many Guyanese who can tell you that their issues, their medical issues, is out there before they tell anybody. But when you try to address the issues of confidentiality within our system, oh boy, the rod of correction come down on you. You racial, you this, you that. How can you do that to this young person? How can you say that? How can you discipline them? And all of that. Me personally, let me talk about me. I have been to the Georgetown Hospital over the last 7 days twice. And I would like to go there to have my issues looked at, because I believe we have some of the best, brightest doctors at the Georgetown Public Hospital. But I want to tell my own story. I don't want somebody to tell my story in Kaichor News or Stabrook News. And that is one of the things that will keep me from going there. I want to know that when I go there that I'm comfortable, because that's one of the biggest things in visiting a doctor. You want to feel comfortable, and I don't personally. But would I recommend? Surely I would recommend to other persons. And ministers and other persons, they have a choice. They work at a pay scale that is far higher than the ordinary Guyanese. And so they can use that at their disposal to go to any private institution, whether inside or outside of the country. Is it good? I say if you take that away, then you take away the right to choose, sir. So I don't believe that these are things that we should harper on and seek to have them fester as though they're an issue. They're not an issue. We have the right to choose like every other person. The Cuban doctors. Guyana and Cuba have shared a relationship going back decades now. And we have had the opportunity to have them supply us with medical practitioners. And one of the clauses in that agreement is that our embassy in Cuba must verify that the persons who are coming to Guyana would have gone through some English classes and can speak the English language to an extent where the Guyanese can be able to understand what the doctor is saying. So it's no fault that a doctor will slip through the cracks and come here and can't speak English fluently. As a matter of fact, there is also a program where these doctors, if that happens, when they get to Guyana, should join that program at the University of Guyana. So there are balances for that. The good thing, however, for us is that a large percentage of our doctors have studied in Cuba. And so they speak the language, many of them very fluently. And so while that doctor is working along with the Guyanese doctor is supposed to be there to assist. And they have been doing so. Can we do without the Cuban medical practitioners? No, we are not ready. We have a long way to go. And that's why I said before that we have a lot of work to do in the health sector. And
Minister,
as you know,
okay,
Guyana is opening up. We have to ensure that we provide our children and our youths with the opportunity to be bilingual, because the world is moving that way. And you know, Dr. Rose, you go to Miami, you walk into a store, the first thing they start to do is speak Spanish to you.
True.
True.
Okay, so we have a lot of work to do.
Now, Minister.
I'm not hearing you, Mr. Sugrim.
I said New York also have that issue, but you go to Spanish Town, the same thing.
Yes.
Miss Lawrence, for decades now, one of the most aching things at the hospitals, public hospitals, shortage of nurses. Someone goes to the hospital, oh, we don't have a nurse right now, you have to wait 2 hours after nurse coming. By then the patient is dead. Or shortage of doctors. Why can't we have the right amount of nurses at the hospital? A nurse should be in charge of, the last time I look at it, should be in charge of at least 3 patients and not more than 3. And that's the max. But when you at the Georgian Hospital, I was told a nurse is in charge of 8, 9, 10 patients. And other hospitals in the rural areas, it's even worse. And this is why nurses are burnt out and overworked. And they always say they're underpaid. So why can't we have the right quota of nurses to meet the population's illness?
Doc, yes, we do not by any way meet the quota of nurses that we should have per population. And that is for many, many reasons. And so for some time, we will continue to have a shortage of RNs within our health institutions. 2 things. As you would know that a few years ago, we were able to pass the Nurses and Midwives Bill, now an act. The passage of that bill was to ensure that we bring that piece of legislation, which we have, was written in 1957, and that is what we were operating with. And it disenfranchised a lot of persons who wanted to be a nurse and join the profession. So we have fixed that. But even as the Ministry of Health would have fixed that, we still need the Ministry of Public Service to fix that. And so the nurses in the present state of legislation, while it provides many opportunities for them or anyone who wants to join the career of nursing, it has not rolled out because there are other agencies or departments within the government structure that has not made the necessary changes to be able to allow for nurses who have degrees, who went and study on their own, to be recognized, both within the nursing profession and also to be given their monetary allocation for that type of education which they have now achieved. Second secondly, we are still dealing with a nurse is a nurse for everything. We are not dealing with specialization, and you know the world has gone ahead and left us behind. A nurse can be in ER, you train her for 2 years or a year, and then she's removed from ER and put on female surgical, and so we have to ensure that very quickly, if we want to attract persons to the profession and we want to hold those persons who are already in the professions, we have to make those fundamental changes. I want to also say that we have to ensure that we keep the doors open. And so there are varying categories for which you can work your way up to become an RN. And you would have noted that under my stay at the ministry, that I did seek to ensure that we were training persons, not just from Georgetown, but that we sought to, in the batches that we were training, to ensure that we represented the various regions. And over those 3 years, we would have trained over 1,500 PCAs and assistant nurses. Now, the thing was that once those persons were qualified in those positions, that they should seek within 2 years to move to the next level. And so we must open the door to allow them to do that. There are many, many opportunities. There is a program within the training department at the Ministry of Public Health so that we can be able to give opportunities to our children in the hinterland, our children in the riverine areas, and so on, so that they can be a part of this noble profession. Dr. Rose, again, I will reiterate that the bird is in the hand of the government, and particularly the minister, to push this program to ensure that we can be able to have the number of RNs and other nurses specialized in the various areas to be able to meet the needs of the population. And given the fact that Guyana is opening up and persons are returning home, people are coming here for jobs and so on, that we can be able to provide that health care to all of those persons who land here in Guyana in accordance with our constitution.
Okay, I want to just touch on party politics, Minister Lawrence, and you know me.
Like
you know
party, Dr. Rose.
What you said?
I said you seem to like this party.
Party politics, yes.
You to join the party.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I'm not a member of no political party in Guyana or no place.
What about you, Mr. Sugrim?
I want to stay out of politics too. I think I already know.
Now, you know me, and you know I'm always with numbers. Now, I want you to listen to this. As a party stalwart, your popularity among women is at 68%. Among men, it's at 55%. And among youths, it's at 73%. Now, it is my understanding that the party will have its Congress this year, April, or sometime. Easter or sometime then. Based on these numbers, is there going to be a leadership race? And if so, would you contend it for the leadership position? Putting you on the spot, Ms. Lawrence.
Yes, you are putting me on the spot. And many persons have been trying to do that. But I have one thing to say. Look, our party has always had the people of this country at heart. The party has given me opportunities to do things that I never knew was inside of me. And so I want to ensure that our party is always given the chance to have the best leadership that it can have. At our conference, many persons will be nominated, and if I'm nominated, then I will have to make that decision, not just based on the nomination, but based on the fact that I have the information that I will win before I jump into the race. I want to be able to ensure that this is what the comrades of our party would like to see happen, that this is where they want to place their investment in. And so I totally leave it up to the comrades of our party. As I've said before, that I have always had the opportunity of being asked by my comrades to run for any position which I hold at this point or which I held previously. And it is always an honor to serve my party comrades and to serve Guyanese as a whole.
Quickly, one last question on party politics. You might not agree with me, but various reports and inside information is telling us that the party right now is fractured. It's divided into the Volda Lawrence fraction, into the David Granger fraction. So we have two factions in the PNC. I know you might not want to admit this, but the question is this. How would you bring those two factions together, heal the party, and prepare for the 2025 regional and general elections if you are nominated to be the leader of the party?
But I gotta accept first, Doc. So I ain't going down that road. You're throwing a cast net at me.
Well, the numbers here are telling me.
Let me just say
the numbers are telling me
that there's a Volda Lawrence camp and there's a Granger camp and so on. I am the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform. My comrades voted overwhelmingly for me. For Volda Lawrence, it doesn't matter the perception of anyone about who have a camp and who doesn't have a camp. I work for my party. And anybody who wants to waste their time about this camp and that camp and the other camp, that they can go ahead with that. But my goal is to utilize whatever energies I have and whatever knowledge I have to work with our people to ensure that we can bring about the best possible changes for everyone inside the party and outside the party. And that must be our goal. Our goal must be about our people and our country. So I'm not going to be in no camp and no fraction and whatever. As I say to people, I don't have enemies. People see me as their enemies. I see people as my friends in various categories. And so, you know, Doc, as you know, I am a cancer survivor. And had it not been for the mercies of God and the people whom He put in my life, I would not have been here tonight speaking with yourself and Mr. Sugrim. I would not. And every single day I wake up, I remember that. And I give thanks for that. And I ask God to give me the opportunity to be the best person I can be for that day, to do everything that I can do that will bring about some positive end to someone's life. And so I am not going to get myself in any fight and any tangle and saying bad things about people and so on, because who am I? I may not be here tomorrow, but I'm here today, so I'm going to utilize it in a positive way.
Okay, Ms. Lawrence, we are coming to program time, and I have a crystal ball, and I'm saying now to you that you will be the leader of the PNC at their Congress. Now, when you
I
become,
hope you don't bill me for that, you know.
no, you will be, you will be. When you become the leader of the PNC, would you support the government in setting up, because you'll be in Parliament then, you'll go back to Parliament, will you set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission so we can hear from all our, and there's so many history in our country that is, we don't know the truth of the history. We men like Hamilton Green and you see Guyana and all those sons of Guyana who have so much knowledge and history in them that we want to hear from them the unadulterated truth. Would you support a Truth and Reconciliation Commission with the government so we can have the history of Guyana written as it should be?
Mr. Sugrim, my name is Volda Ann Raymond Lawrence, and I am a Guyanese, and hence it is absolutely important to me that the history of our country be done, and done in a manner that it records the views and the memories of all those persons who have had the opportunity to be in a position or the other when Guyana was in its embryonic stage. And if that means also Guyanese being able to express themselves and express their fears and their concerns and so on in a manner in which you have put it as a Truth and Reconciliation committee, then I don't have to be leader of my party. As a Guyanese, I'm ready for that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lawrence. You've been really great for us. We have come to program time. We want to thank you so much for taking your time off to be with us. I think our audience, we have had almost over 500 views on Facebook and over 300 views on YouTube. So the people they listen to what you said, and I think that people will gain a lot from you. And we want to encourage you, Ms. Lawrence, is to encourage some other leaders in the PNC to come on our program, our platform, so we can have their views also expressed so that our viewers can at least hear on both sides of the political divide. So again, Ms. Lawrence, we want to thank you so much. In closing, is there anything you want to tell us?
Well, I just want to tell you and all Guyanese that COVID is still with us. And so you need to take all precaution, wear your mask, wash your hands, use your sanitizers, and stay away from crowds, you know. Use that 6 feet space between yourself and others. We're seeing new strains and we're hearing all sorts of things in the medical field, and so let us be forewarned and forearmed.
Great advice. Dr. Rose, anything in closing?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lawrence, and thank you for coming. And we hope that someday we'll have you to come back here to talk to us a little more, because I would want to ask you questions, let's say after a year, the PP's in office, to how you assess their progress and so forth, especially in the health sector. So we would like to have you back in a few months' time. And it was very, very gracious of you to come on the program and to express your views so eloquently to all our viewers and all across the globe. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Doc, I'm going to book her in advance when she becomes leader of the PNC. So you're booking her now in advance.
You what? You what?
We are booking her in advance when she becomes the leader of the PNC.
Oh, the numbers are on our side, so.
Ms. Lawrence, again, thank you so much. Thank you to our viewers out there. Thank you to Nohar Singh and to Devin. And we look forward again next Monday, God's willing. We'll be back here on Globespan 24/7. So good night, all of you, and God bless our great country of Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you.